We are here today and we are going to be talking about argumentation. What does that look like? Where do you go to find it? Under Google Classroom, where I keep the calendar, you are going to be looking for Thursday the 7th, which is what exactly is argumentation. Alrighty, so we're going to try to make this really quick. We're not going to go too in depth because you know how to read. So we're just hitting some of the major points. So argumentation. First and foremost, we're making sure that we're not jumping into an argument for the sake of arguing, getting angry, or trying to prove a point that doesn't have evidence. We always want evidence, and that's the main purpose of that first document. What exactly is argumentation? All right, it's our job to point out facts, supply with evidence, same thing, but doing so with civility, all right, and not being a jerk about it. So, few things that we need to do. We are looking at the social or cultural context for the issue. We're going to consider where this argument might appear or even be published. Now, for a high school setting, appearance could be a local newspaper, or if it's done in class in front of your peers. And that's a big thing. I know it gets overlooked a lot, but it is a big thing. Second, after that, which would be third, look at the audience and ask what they already know or believe. The worst thing you could do is treat an audience as if they know nothing, all right? Think of it like when you walk into a class, you don't want a teacher saying things that belittle your knowledge or what you already know and understand of the world. Consider that the audience, their viewpoint may be alternative from yours. It doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. It just means you guys are on, two different sides of the same coin. Lastly, what if your audience is neutral on the matter? Okay, what if they're willing to listen to both sides? Well, that means you need to, really bring your A game and outshine that other person. Better evidence, better argumentation, sharper thesis statement, so on and so forth. You need to have a debatable position or claim, and then support each claim with sufficient evidence. All right. We talk about Thomas More's book Utopia, and their biggest thing is that they have a focus on truth, all right, which can be found in our society. Now, in our society, because we live in one, meme, truth is subjective. We live in a world now where facts get disputed on a daily basis. And so that means sometimes we have to wade through lies in order to find truth. All right? You can choose to live obliviously and eat up those lies, or you can look for the truth, which is more difficult, but in the long run will be more fulfilling for you. So, argument is a means for one to express him or herself. You get to share your opinions. You talk with other people, but you share as opposed to regurgitate. And that's a big deal. Few things that an argument is not: a quarrel involving name calling or fallacious statements, which we'll get to later, as well as an opinionated dispute of ideas without any real evidence. We always want evidence. We need to make sure that it is always debatable, and it cannot be a rant that disregards the audience. The audience is who you are trying to win over, so you need one. So that is our first file. What exactly is argumentation? And so we're going to be looking for now how to write an effective argument essay. So pre-writing, a couple things. You want to choose an appropriate focus topic, explore and decide as you brainstorm, and then predict opposing arguments. So if you're going to talk about why peanut butter and jelly is better than peanut butter and jam, and yes, there is a difference, you need to figure out why might people prefer jam over jelly, and vice versa, depending on which side you're arguing. The reason why I say that is because what you'll end up doing is you will have an entire paragraph in your paper where you say, this is what opposition thinks. This is what the other team believes. And I'm going to tell you why they're wrong and why my understanding and my system is far better of an approach. Consider your audience and what they know. We went over that already. Decide on which points you're going to argue, and then decide on which points you're going to refute in the concession. So that whole part about predicting the opposing argument, that comes into play now. And then lastly, you're going to write a thesis that is focused, arguable, and opinionated. Good? Solid. So Research and evidence. You can use personal experience stories, what we call anecdotes, that help support why you believe what you do, or a type of story that works as an example for why we need to have something set in place, which means you can use I, me, my, all those personal pronouns. If you don't have a story for yourself, but you have one of a family member or a friend, that can be supplemented. Just make sure that you're using the right point of view. Aside from that, facts, statistics, reliable sources, which have to be current, which means if we live in 2019, something 2014 or before is way out of date. Much has changed in the world since then. Your hypothetical examples could be used where you detail, again, based off of perhaps if we follow your opinion and we enact it, what is it projected to look like in 5 years? So let's say you're saying smoking causes cancer, and that's fine. I think we can all agree that that is a thing. But you want to say that a certain type of smoke can cause secondhand smoke cancer, all right? And so if that's where you're going, secondhand smoke, that's your thing. You need to make sure that with a hypothetical example, it's if little Timmy is hanging out with his friends every day and they're smoking, but Timmy isn't, the secondhand smoke will eventually kill him one day because he will get cancer from that. That would be the hypothetical example that you would then use in your paper. Lastly, you can use a testimony that's a direct quote from an authoritative figure or an expert in the field. All right, so it has to be someone who's a master of their domain. Decode evidence. You're going to analyze the evidence for effectiveness. You're going to select which of all the different gathered evidence you're going to use, just like you would for any research paper. You're going to highlight and annotate your evidence. That way you're picking and choosing. Third, decide what pieces of evidence you'd like to quote directly. And then the other stuff, rather than just throwing it out the door, now we're summarizing and we're paraphrasing. So there's the direct quotes, and then we have summarizing, and then we have paraphrasing off to the side. Then you're going to start drafting. You're going to consider Rogerian or traditional techniques. We'll get into Rogerian technique later. And then you'll create an outline, and then you're going to write your essay. As far as revision goes, we'll focus on evaluating purpose, thesis, audience, arguments, style, clarity, all that stuff later on in just a document. You're then going to edit the essay, spelling, punctuation, mechanics, stuff that you're already well used to. And then the holistic approach, looking at the parts. Do they match the whole? Is there a paragraph that looks like it's no longer needed? Do we need to cut it? Do we need to put something in? Does it feel like something's missing? So again, you're just reading the whole of your body of work now, and you're asking yourself, is there anything missing whatsoever? Then we publish, and we wash our hands of the assignment. So that's how to write an effective argument essay, and we're going to end with that for now. Awesome.